Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wellness by Design today. I'm really excited to talk about today how we can lower pain and inflammation with our guest, a functional medicine practitioner, Dr. Rob Downey. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks so much, Jane. What a privilege to be here.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. You've got a great perspective, and we're going to be talking about this summit that you've got coming up on healing habits and your perspective on it. And it's really interesting to hear the perspective of a functional medicine practitioner. So, I'm going to tell people a little bit about you by reading your bio now. So, Dr. Rob Downey is a board certified family practice MD and IFM, which stands for Institute for Functional Medicine certified practitioner. So, he's got both the medical doctor and practicing in a functional medicine style. He has 21 years of experience as an attending physician and 15 years as a functional medicine provider. He's the founder of Seaworthy Functional Medicine. Seaworthy is a pioneer in responding to the needs for better availability of functional medicine in underserved areas in Alaska, as well as travel medicine to Alaska. So, wherein non-Alaskans can visit once, become an Alaskan patient, and then follow up from anywhere on Earth. His whole career has been spent working for and on behalf of nonprofit hospitals and Alaskan Native corporations. Many of the people Dr. Downey has a privilege of providing care for have a very high ratio of challenges to resources. This gives him a unique capacity to share a key lesson. A little goes a long way. Dr. Rob is also the co host, along with Heather Ardema, who's a very good friend of mine, of the upcoming Healing Habits Summit. So, welcome to the show. Welcome to the people that are watching and listening. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. And if we get a chance, we'll get to them for you. So, Dr. Rob, you've got this summit coming up with your co-hosting with Heather, Healing Habits, and I've already signed up for the summit. I just love what you're doing because functional medicine is about lifestyle, and lifestyle is the habits that we have every day that create
hmm
who we are, right? So
hmm
you you created this summit really is about it's about the habits, and it's about the how to apply it. We know all the whys, but you're talking about the how. So let's have a little conversation about that.
Great, great. Thank you. So, so many of the most important moments in my career have often been humbling, and one of them was that the two functional medicine certified coaches that staffed my clinic about 5 years ago, they had met people in town that I had worked with 10 years ago when I moved to Homer, Alaska. And some of those folks that didn't improve just mentioned to my team in town, they said, well, at the end of the day, Dr. Downey focused so much on testing and supplements, this was 10 years ago, not now, that I didn't understand I had to do the lifestyle for the supplements and testing to work. And so that was a humbling moment for me 5 years ago, but it was also transformative because
Mhm.
I've always been somebody that feels like some of the most important lessons are humbling if we want to really bring our A game and serve the people that rely on us. And so ever since then, I've started every visit and every new patient saying, lifestyle is the cornerstone and foundation of your functional medicine house. That's the journey that we're going to take together. And if you do that, then the testing and the supplementation is magnificent, mind-blowing,
Mhm.
amazing. But if you flip it, you can't supplement and test your way out of a lifestyle deficit.
Absolutely true. Oh my goodness. And so many people think, okay, if I'm going to go get the test done, and I was like that too when I first started. It was all about the test,
hmm
get the test, get the answers. But I didn't realize that those day-to-day habits, and it's not even it's the habits, of course, what we're eating and how we're sleeping and all that, but it's
hmm
also about what we're thinking. That's
Right.
driving so much, probably the most important thing, right? Would you
Yeah.
agree with that? What's your thoughts?
Oh,
What are
oh
your
yeah.
thoughts and thoughts?
Well, it's such a great example, Jane, of how again, in terms of humility and insight running hand in hand. So then when I said to folks, okay, so then if we're going to talk about lifestyle, Institute for Functional Medicine, mental, emotional spiritual is at the center of the functional medicine matrix analytical tool for what matters. So that's no surprise. And that particular mental, emotional, spiritual lens impacts all of lifestyle: sleep, relationship,
Mhm.
food, stress management, and movement. So it's almost the challenge with things this important. It's like somebody saying, well, what's the importance of oxygen? Well, it's so pivotally
Essential to
important.
life.
It can't be overstated. It's one of those truths where we stumble over it because of the magnitude and how it's interlaced into the significance of everything else. And so I started my own journey 5 years ago then with how to articulate this, and
Mm.
then how to be honest with people that these truths that are right in front of our faces, we're sort of in a trance in Western American culture where we feel like, my thoughts? What? I'm not even in control of my thoughts. They're just there. And how could they possibly be toxic versus transformative? And yet, I think that that this compass heading, then, if it matters, we're going to talk about it. That's where the gold is.
Mm, so good. So do you start now? Do you not start with testing now with your patients, or do you start with the lifestyle?
Well, so visit one, we always slate an hour
Hmm.
because I think to form a meaningful therapeutic alliance, it takes an hour. And it always pays off in the end. And again, I think
Hmm.
it's honest that functional medicine isn't a one-shot solution. So how could you even make inroads in 15 minutes? But all I would say is that I try to do two things in the first visit. I try to say lifestyle is the cornerstone and foundation of your functional medicine house, and it's going to be yours.
Hmm.
And so don't presume that I'm asking you to live like a monk or an Olympic athlete. Please just presume that I'm going to ask you to engage honestly in what your sleep is like, what your whole food plan is like, what does it mean for you to be at peace? And
Hmm.
then if you engage that imperfectly and beautifully, we're going to do great. And don't worry, the testing and supplements is a blast if you're just on your lifestyle journey. It works great. It's all you have to do is be on your journey.
Right. It's so beautiful. A lot of people may not realize, like, to hear 1 hour with their practitioner is pretty amazing. People don't realize that that's part of that functional medicine model to get that whole picture. I mean, I'm trained as a functional medicine
Mm-hmm,
health coach, so I
mm-hmm,
understand getting
mm-hmm,
that whole picture of someone's timeline from the time even before they were born, and how they were born, and how they were
mm-hmm.
fed when they were babies. All of these things play, and the whole mental, emotional, spiritual side of things as well. Yeah, so to understand that that's the kind of care you get in a functional medicine model, because we are not one little part, we are a whole person.
Mm-hmm.
So really beautiful. Now, for the summit, you've created this gift called, and I make sure I get it right, the e-guide for the Healing Habits Summit, Healing Habits from a Functional Medicine Physician. So let's walk through that. I really loved how you start off leading us through a process. So let's talk about the process that you give people in this guide, because it's really different and maybe not what people are expecting.
Thanks again. Thanks again. It's great getting to talk about it. So the thing that's not there is the top three supplements, or go to bed at the same time, or something like that. And the rationale is that at the 16-year mark, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of different symptoms. Skip this, eat breakfast, don't eat breakfast, get up at the same time, vary your schedule, eat dairy, don't eat dairy, eat gluten, don't eat gluten, paleo, not paleo, keto. And so it's really this confusion people have about what matters is a huge issue, huge
Mm,
issue. So the what is out there, and the what is different for each person. That's part of the functional medicine journey, is that each person's plan, and this is from the Institute for Functional Medicine, each person's plan is personalized.
yeah.
So every single person ends up with a jacket tailored just for them. That's why you can't mass produce functional medicine outcomes,
Mhm.
because one person's keto is another person's something else.
Yeah.
But also then there are these key elements of how people engage the journey. The how turns out to be the biggest issue that I see in my practice, with the 16-year mark, saying, if this is the last thing I did is put out this e-guide, and then I didn't get to comment anymore, what would I want people to know? It would be that this journey we're on is one of an adventure where we're really in this different space of of trying things and seeing what happens. And so many folks come in thinking, okay, my functional medicine work with this guy, it's going to be a checklist. He's going to give me a checklist of whole food and running and yoga. So I'll just go through and check the boxes and then I'll be healthy.
Hmm.
That never happens. And the reason is that when you make your first smoothie, it tastes good or it doesn't, or you like it or it doesn't, or you get an upset stomach or you don't. And the same with putting your sneakers back on, or doing some push-ups, or taking a yoga class. So when one variable changes, all the other variables around it change. So it's so much, but most of all, Joseph Campbell, and this gets to be a little hard to put all together, but it's so important, I think it's worth the time. Joseph Campbell spent his life realizing that all human culture tells the same story. So if
The
you look at
heroes are very.
the hero's journey, he wrote The Hero of a Thousand Faces. He spent his life on it. He skipped out of his doctoral program and later got an honorary doctorate because it was so important. He just kept going on this work. But he said that when we hear the call to adventure, I want to put those sneakers on, I want to start whole food, I want my joints to feel better, I want my energy back. That's the call to adventure. When we heed that, then we're in the space where unexpected resources show up, amazing things happen, amazing challenges present themselves, which hold an elixir or a boon on the other side. And ultimately, we bring that back to our community. The people that count on us, we're transformed by that. That's much bigger than just getting some energy back or our joints not hurting. That's the
Hmm.
true vibrant health is the outcome of that journey, what we have to give to ourselves and what we have to give others, which is symptom relief plus, plus, plus. It's a very value added process. And I think it takes some courage and some moxie, but it's much
Hmm.
better if we just go ahead and acknowledge that's what we're really jumping into. And again, some of this is what I see in my practice and what I believe in. So, the folks that really dig it stick around, and the ones who don't, that's okay.
Right. You just gave me goosebumps then talking about the hero's journey, because I believe that, and it's true, we are all the heroes of our own journey. And when things happen, we have different challenges in our life. And we're talking about health today, so it's like a health challenge. It's calling us to be that hero in our journey. And so who do we have to be that hero? And so the fact that you're a doctor and you're talking about that is just such a beautiful thing. And I
Mm,
felt it, that's what motivated me when I was at my rock bottom point and in the most pain. I was like, this can't be it. I am
mm-hmm,
meant to figure this out. And I
mm-hmm,
think it was at that moment I said, if I figure this out, I'm going to talk to people about it. And I feel like a hero in my journey. And
mm-hmm,
I see it in clients as well. I see it in people
mm-hmm.
once they start realizing they are the ones that are in power, that these symptoms that we have are really gifts calling us to action. And
Yeah.
so I love that you've started
Mm,
this using this model of the hero's
mm.
journey.
Thanks, Jane. Well, you gave me goosebumps back, so now it's reciprocal.
Oh, it's all a goosebump fest here. Okay, so you started off talking about this is your adventure, the hero's journey. And so this is an individual adventure, and that is the hallmark of functional medicine. That is very personalized medicine. So this is you're the hero in your own story. So you start off with the adventure, and then you move into the next thing is peace.
So I thought for the longest time about, and I always try to acknowledge this, Mark Hyman probably is the single human on the planet who's had the most impact on my health. So chairman of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine, former chair of the Institute for Functional Medicine, 10 times New York Times bestselling author, arguably the most visibly prominent functional medicine doctor in the world. So I've eaten his whole food plans and read his books and been transformed by his message. So then when I got to the point of thinking, who am I? What do I have to say? One occurrence came to me. I thought, oh, well, I just assumed when I got there, wherever there is, I'd be eating like Mark Hyman. And I found out, oh, I'm eating like Rob Downey. And so Mark Hyman always said that food is the most important. And there's this caveat that if we're not in a state of peace, we can't even have our navigation lights turn on to go get the food into our fridge and pantry and sit down reverently and turn on our rest and digest software and reverently assimilate the nutrients. So I'm
Mhm.
with Mark Hyman, but it's almost like food is the most important, and we need to be in a place of peace to assimilate the whole food. And the same is
Mhm.
true of stress management, exercise, human relationships. And the folks I take care of, the peace is the missing ingredient. They
Mhm.
are discouraged and distracted and frustrated and overwhelmed and angry and upset and disillusioned, and I was too. And so if we're not at peace, which feels paradoxical, like with all these problems, how can I possibly be at peace? And that's the irony, is it's within our locus of control to be at peace.
It's a
And
choice.
peace is anti-inflammatory and
Mhm.
changes genetic expression. And so that's my big aha moment, is that one breath, one session of reconciling with somebody we have disagreements with, or goodwill toward people we have adversity with, or serving soup in a kitchen on a Saturday morning, it's different for everyone, or taking a walk rather than tuning out. Whatever peace is for that person, peace
Mhm.
is the secret sauce for all the rest.
Oh, so true. So true. Applies when you're eating, when you're in relationship with people, when you're exercising. I mean, what's
Mhm.
the point of exercising if you're like hating it the whole time you're doing it,
Mhm.
right? So, um,
And
all
data that it doesn't even give us what we want.
no,
If we're in fight, flight, freeze, faint mode, our sympathetic nervous system's running, we don't get the benefits of exercise. We don't get the benefits of yoga and meditation. The whole food doesn't get assimilated. So the
right.
software isn't even running. So this is science. This can sound mystical, but the
Yeah.
science is that thousands of studies now. So
I'm so glad, Dr. Rob, you mentioned the science because this is all backed up by science. And as simple as it sounds, it is so powerful just to create that peace. And we can create it. It's one thought, one breath at a time.
mhm,
In
mhm.
every moment, it's always a choice. You can choose peace or not. Now, it does sometimes have to start with awareness as well. But I really love that you started this guide with peace. Okay, so the next part of your guide is the body knows the way. What do you mean by
So, well, kind of same theme. There's a lot of discouragement, a lot of frustration, a lot of overwhelm. It's such good timing for people to have good news.
Mhm.
And if it's legitimate good news, then boy, what a time to get to be the messenger, right?
Yeah.
And Western medicine has inadvertently created, because everything's diagnosed and treated with a pill or procedure. This is why folks are disillusioned with Western medicine. So for me, I'm going to use Western medicine to, if resect brain tumors, straighten broken bones, kill pneumonia, life-threatening illness, I'm all in. But for things that have a complex chronic backstory, I'm all functional medicine for about 80% of what walks through the door. And Jeff Bland, the father of functional medicine, sort of pioneered this idea of where diseases come from, diseases exist, etc. But folks think that they're broken and they've got to be constantly patching everything with pills and procedures. That's the message of conventional medicine. And it's a really unhelpful message, because it's like, oh, well, when the vehicle of you came off the factory line, it was a lemon made on Friday, or this is a car that always breaks down. And all the science is showing this is not true at all. And this
Mhm.
is so big. And so just to briefly get into this, the easiest one is Dale Bredesen, the functional medicine neurologist in California, who showed that of the 36 factors that lead to dementia, each of us only has to have enough of those factors going the right direction. So if it's a trophic support, like hormonal balance or uh, what have you, or if it's decreasing inflammation, getting rid of a hurdle, for us, when enough of the 36 factors are going our way, our brain will keep growing the business until the end of our lives.
Mhm.
So that person who says, well, I'm broken, I can't eat a brownie, right? I can never have sugar, I can never have gluten because then I'll get dementia. Well, Dale Bredesen's not saying that. He's saying if enough of those 36 factors are going your way, you're not going to get. Now, maybe if to have that brownie, you're going to have to run and meditate, and that brownie can't be very often. But he's saying we're not broken, just the opposite. We
Mm.
default into incredible health and vitality. And so I just want people to know we're not broken.
So what you're saying, is this what you're saying, that we have a wisdom in our body can heal itself if we don't throw all these factors at it, all these lifestyle factors that can turn on inflammation.
Well, in terms of credit where it's due, this is really so much of functional medicine is heavily influenced by what the naturopathic physicians were observing coming into it. No surprise, Father of Functional Medicine Jeff Bland started the Institute for Functional Medicine 30 years ago with his wife Susan, right around the time he founded Bastyr with Joseph Pizzorno, one of the preeminent naturopathic colleges in the United States. And so what I'm saying is that in any and all processes, whether it's the supercomputer of our brain running or our joints being happy or having enough energy, really boils down to enough support and few enough hurdles that
Mhm.
the native design can run. And that's different for everybody. It is work, it is diligence. I don't want to trivialize that, but each person doesn't have to do everything on the list for the body, just the opposite. The body does it. Our job is simply to remove enough hurdles and provide enough support that we hear back from the body, all right, I'm good. So for my patients that have the gene for dementia, pass their cognitive test and want to know, am I on track to dementia or not? If they've checked enough of those boxes and they're passing their cognitive test, we go into their maintenance plan and they have the assurance they're very unlikely to get it. And boy, that's good news.
Oh, I bet some people are very relieved with that. All right, let's go on to the next part of your guide, and that is push the dose. Push the dose.
Yeah, so again, credit where it's due, a person I really care about, really trust, really revere, when they were dealing with a lot of stress about 6 or 7 years ago, they just mentioned to me in passing one day, they said, I wasn't even thinking about it. You know how much yoga and meditation I'm averaging every day? About 3 or 3.5 hours. And I'm coping with this stress. And I thought, well, in Tibet, that might not be a lot of yoga and meditation, but in the United States, that's a lot of daily bandwidth.
Mhm.
And it occurred to me that we default into what our culture thinks is, well, I may be mispronouncing her name, but Pilar Gerasimo talks about being a healthy deviant, that we have so many examples surrounding us of what's the default that we might feel like, well, this is a huge dose to be at 20 minutes a day of mindfulness 5 days a week.
Mhm.
But it turns out that that ladder I included for pushing the dose, I do a lot of mindfulness practices, a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga. I'm even sort of a believer that our life itself is a meditative practice. And
Mhm.
so I hope folks know in terms of mindfulness that deepening their practice, multiple practices, checking heart rate variability, considering a retreat, these bigger doses can be transformative because the magnitude of the challenges we're trying to fix with mindfulness and meditation and peace are significant. It can take a fairly big dose, and as long as it's undertaken joyfully, why not?
Mm. So when you say dose, you're talking about more meditation, more mindfulness, more awareness,
Or multiple practices.
or
So if
multiple.
somebody's already meditating, they may feel like, well, I'm off the hook. I don't need the yoga because I'm
Mhm.
already meditating. And I hope that instead they say, well, if I can feel and do better and better, Maybe it'd be
Hmm.
nice to do some yoga and meditation. Or if an Ura ring can tell me if my meditation's translating to enough heart rate variability, I'd be interested to know that. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I can keep investigating, this area has so much yield. It's I just deliberately chose this idea of pushing the dose as kind of a provocative language, like deliberately hijacking this Western concept of the dose of medication and
Right. Oh, I
saying,
love it. Yeah, flipping it, totally
what's
flipping it.
yeah, what's
So,
the
so
dose of peace?
so the person would pay attention to the signals from their body to know, do I need to up the dose a little bit? For example, I do my meditation every morning, do my yoga and all that. But if I'm still not sleeping well at night, I may have to up the dose.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Okay. All right. I get it. All right. So the last point in your guide is called Make It Yours.
So again, an observation over 16 years that started with me, and then I realized I was seeing it in all the people that I take care of, is the people we revere, many of us assume that when we get there, wherever there is, we're going to be like them. So for
Right.
me, because I love Mark Hyman, I just thought, oh, I'll be like Mark Hyman. He's a family practice MD. I'm a family practice MD. He practiced in Idaho. I practice in Montana. When I get there, I'll be like him. And I didn't. Food's the easiest example. He is so takes so much joy in the things that he can round up from Hawaii and the East, to make things wonderful and flavorful. It takes a lot of energy and time to round up the ingredients. And I happen
Mm,
to be kind of a Heather Ardema archetype. I'm a minimalist. So
mhm,
the foods I tend to like are pretty simple. I like my spices and flavors and savoriness, but that way I eat is pretty simple when I'm successful. And so this aha moment that I think is really good news is the intimidation factor when people come in. They've read David Perlmutter, they've read Mark Hyman, they've read an expert, and they look at it, they're intimidated. They feel like
mhm,
I don't have the time. I'm not a genius.
mhm.
And my message is again, that's okay because for you, this is going to feel like your comfiest shoes, your favorite jacket, your best friend. Might
Mhm.
as well acknowledge up front it's going to be yours, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be successful. So listen to your body.
Exactly. And we've got these perfectionist tendencies in our society. So they'll look at one of these diet books or food books, one of these guides from these leaders and say, okay, I'm going to eat exactly that. And I get people coming to me saying that, tell me exactly what to eat. And no, you need to figure out what works for you, what feels good for you, and
Yeah,
enjoy your food when you're eating it. That's what's going
yeah,
to and fit into your lifestyle. Like you said,
yeah,
if you're a more simplistic minimalist kind of person, well then that's got to fit in that lifestyle because that's who you are. That's such a beautiful message. Make it yours. I really really love that.
thanks.
So I'm going to share a link of where people, it'll be in the notes. So I just got it on the screen there, but it's a lot of words. So, but if you are interested in learning more about these healing habits, you can sign up here. You can get this guide that we've been talking about today, and loads of other free resources are amazing. And the first three, there's three expert interviews available right away. What are the actual dates of the summit, Dr. Rob?
It's the last week in March, so it's 21st through the 28th or 21st through the 27th. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's lots for you to look at in the meantime and learn about these healing habits. So, is there anything we haven't covered yet that you'd like to mention, Dr. Rob, before we wrap up?
Well, I think folks should know that there's this double whammy with habits. So there's two problems here. The habits that matter most aren't intuitive. It's not New Year's resolutions.
Hmm.
And then secondly, most of us don't know what we don't know. And so if we're serious about which habits are transformative and lead to our health, that's what the summit provides. And it's truly a
Mm-hmm.
good investment. It was a good investment for Heather and I to up our A game and go talk to the folks that fully understand this. And it's worth the time and energy to really delve down into that. And that's what's changed me and my patients' lives the most in the last 16 years. So I think it's really valuable.
Yeah. Healing habits. So good. So I always ask one last question of my guest on the show. What's one action someone could take today? So a simple, you could call it a habit if you wanted to. One simple thing they can do today to improve their health. What would you say, Dr. Rob?
Well, if there's not peace right now in your life, or you're craving peace, create a place of peace within yourself or your home or your environment. And if you already have a place of peace, amplify the real estate.
Ah, love that. Start with peace. That is so, so beautiful. So, Dr. Rob, where can people find you?
Seaworthymed.com.
Okay, so the website is seaworthymed.com.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll have the links there as well. So this has been so good and I know really insightful for our audience. Thank you so much for being a guest today on Wellness by Design, Dr. Rob Downey.
What a privilege. Thanks for all the light you bring, Jane.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. Bye for now.